long enough to know the difference between journalism and performance art. Real journalists ask questions because they want answers. You ask questions because you want to hear yourself talk. Joy's face flushed red. She turned to the camera, then back to Clint, her voice now carrying a note of desperation disguised as indignation. I can't believe this. You come on our show and insult not just me, but the entire profession of journalism. This is exactly the kind of arrogance I expected from someone who's been surrounded by yes men for 50 years. 60 years, Clint corrected, quietly, and in those 60 years, I've learned that respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. You might want to think about that. The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence. Joyy looked around at her co-hosts, clearly expecting support, but found only worried expressions. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. Joyy, realizing she was losing control of the situation, decided to escalate. You know what, Clint? I think your problem is that you can't handle strong women. You're from a generation that expected women to be seen and not heard. And now that we have voices, you can't deal with it. For the first time since the interview began, Clint smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the kind of smile that appeared in his movies right before someone made a very big mistake. He leaned forward slightly, his voice remaining perfectly calm. Joyy, I've worked with some of the strongest women in Hollywood. Meryl Streep, Frances McDormand, Hilary Swank. The difference between them and you is that they use their strength to build something, not to tear people down. They don't confuse being loud with being strong. Joy's mouth opened and closed for a moment, clearly caught off guard by the comparison to respected actresses. But rather than backing down, she doubled down with the kind of reckless abandon that had made her famous for all the wrong reasons. Don't you dare lecture me about strong women, Joyy snapped, her voice now carrying a shrill edge that made several audience members visibly uncomfortable. You think name-dropping a few actresses makes you some kind of feminist ally? These are women who had to work in your system, play by your rules. Clint's voice remained steady, but there was steel underneath. My system, I've directed and produced films that gave women lead roles when the rest of Hollywood was still treating them like decoration. What have you done besides complain about everyone else's work? What have I done? Joy's laugh was bitter and harsh. I've been fighting for women's rights and social justice while you've been perpetuating toxic masculinity on screen. Your characters solve problems with violence and intimidation, exactly like you're doing right now. The accusation hung in the air like a challenge. Clint sat back in his chair, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than before, which somehow made it more menacing. You think this is intimidation, Joyy? I haven't raised my voice once. I haven't threatened anyone. I've simply responded to your questions with honesty. If that feels like intimidation to you, maybe you should ask yourself why. Joyy turned to the camera, addressing the audience directly. This is exactly what I'm talking about, folks. This is how powerful men shut down women who dare to challenge them. They use their reputation, their presence, their whole persona to make you feel small. Nobody's making you feel small but yourself, Clint replied. You're the one who started this conversation with insults. You're the one who's been trying to put words in my mouth since I sat down. I'm just not playing along with your game. The other hosts were looking increasingly desperate. Whoopi Goldberg finally tried to intervene. Maybe we should talk about Clint's new project, the reason he's actually here today. But Joyy wasn't finished. She had that look in her eyes that regular viewers knew meant she was about to say something she'd regret. No, I think this is more important. I think our viewers deserve to